Good afternoon, all. I'm excited to be a host for the session today. Our topic is Budget 2023, decoding the impact on export businesses and SMEs. Firstly, thanks to everyone for attending this session. I know it's a post-lunch session, so after your heavy lunch, you might be a little bit of in a drowsy state. And my hope is with both our sessions from Pugal sir and Sapna, we should have a lot of information and insightful session up ahead in the next 1 hour. A quick brief on India's export story is at an exciting stage right now, right? We are growing at 23.5% in FY22 versus FY21. And this is almost 2x growth compared to almost, let's say, 5 or 10 years back. And we are targeting a $300 billion services export milestone by the end of FY23. In this exciting phase, and I'm sure a lot of the attendees here would also be contributing to this sort of to this chapter in India's history, right? So our session today is more to understand how can the budget impact us and what is it that Payoneer and Tally can help you in partnering your business to grow and scale your business, right? Today we have with us Mr. Pugal, who is a senior consultant with Tally, and we have Ms. Sapna, who's the sales lead B2B services from Payoneer. And they both are experts in their field, and I would want them to go ahead and take this. Initially, I would love to invite Mr. Pugal to start his session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek. Good afternoon to all the participants. I hope you would have had a lot of exciting moments of the budget. So we are just seeing the result of the poll. 80% said it could have been better. So let us see. Let us see what are the couple of things that this budget has provided, especially for the businesses, the SME segment, where you might be into export or you might be into trading, manufacturing, whatever the case is. So let's quickly walk through a couple of important things the budget has provided for the MSME segment as a whole. And we will also see that how you can leverage these benefits that the budget has offered, and using a technology, how you can manage the competition and grow your business and be on top of it, your operations, and then see how you can use this technology for bringing your organization in the forefront. So I have a small presentation. Let me just share the screen. I'll be basically covering most of the areas, the impact on SME as a whole, whether you might be a local champion or an exporter. We will walk through and see how Tally as a technology company can aid you people in growing your business. So budget, we are aware that the theme of the budget is basically the vision for Amrit Kaal, and these I've just picked up from the budget highlight, where the three legs or the three pillars for the Amrit Kaal is: one, opportunities for citizen with focus on youth; then growth and job creation; then strong and stable macroeconomic environment. In all these three pillars, if you see, MSME plays a very, very important, critical and crucial role, as we are aware that there are 60 million MSMEs in our country who contribute over 30% of the GDP of our country, and they generate close to 120 million jobs. So whatever is the benefit that we are having, we have to see how we can understand the benefits that has been provided and how we can leverage on this benefit and make our business grow. The Saptarishi, or the 7 priorities, again, inclusive development, reaching the last mile, youth power, financial sector, green growth, unleashing the potential infrastructure and investment. So these are the broad spokes under which the Amrit Kaal expectation of the budget was presented on 1st of February by our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitaram. Now, quickly, we will see what is there for us as an SME. Okay? So the first one, basically, if you see the credit guarantee for MSMEs. Okay, this year, they have revamped the credit guarantee for, as I mentioned, 65 million MSME segment, the who are the backbone of our economy. Okay? And with effect from 1st of April 23, the move is to expected to fund 9,000 more crore into this segment. And if you see, the overall allocation has a record allocation of almost 22,138 crores for the MSME Ministry of the in the union budget they have provided. And also the credit guarantee scheme will lower the cost of credit for MSMEs. The expectation is almost about 1%. Then comes the other benefit the budget announcement provided is the entity DigiLocker. So basically, the government is going to set up entity DigiLocker for the MSMEs for them to use it, large business and charitable trust. Okay, basically, these companies can store their documents online and securely, and basically they can share these documents to various authorities, banks, stakeholders whenever it is needed. It's a very nice, I mean, like we are all aware of the DigiLocker where, all the documents are authenticated and we really don't have to keep on, sharing the document to various authorities multiple times. So since it is going to be a centralized depository there, it is really going to help the MSMEs. The third and the very interesting announcement in the budget as far as indirect taxation is concerned is the presumptive taxation, where they have increased the threshold limit from 2 crore to 3 crore for the businesses who are into trading and manufacturing. And for the service providers, the threshold limit has been increased from 50 lakhs to 75 lakhs. With the caveat that, less than 5% of the transactions should be in cash. So if you have 95% of your transactions through an online medium, then, the businesses can really avail of this feature where you really don't have to the return filing process is very, very simple through this presumptive taxation option. The next one is, ease of doing business. Again, the government is, putting, a tremendous amount of effort in trying to bring down the nitty-gritties or the compliance hurdles or bottlenecks in such a way so that, the businesses can, start business, operate and thrive their business without any much of a statutory or taxation hurdles. In fact, if you see, more than 39,000 compliances have been reduced, and this is the data that I've collected. More than 3,400 legal provisions have been decriminalized to enable the citizen for having ease of doing business. Then the last but not the least, risk of non-payment penalties. So especially as an MSME, if you are registered under MSME or the Udyog, I'm sure, they have announced about the Samadhan, MSME Samadhan for delayed payment of monitoring system of credit management. So as I move forward in my presentation, I will dwell upon a little more on what is the benefit that the SMEs have if you have registered under this Udyog, if you have this Udyam certification, what is the benefit that you have or what is the protection that you have on your delayed payments. So the three critical aspects for us to leverage on whatever benefit that we are going to get. And when there's so much of benefits that are available through various fundings. So for all this, it is very, very important that as a business, we have to be ahead of competition. Number one, the three critical aspects for any business is very important, that how do you stay ahead of the competition, right? Number two is, do you have control over your finances and operation? How do we get the visibility of control over our finances and operations? Definitely, we are aware that the only way that we can achieve this objective is through adoption of technology. Now, again, so with these three things, the three C's for the businesses to take control, or for you to take control over finances, is definitely the cash flow management. How are we going to manage the cash flow management? Now, this is where two of the important announcement that was made during this budget plays a very, very important role. Number one is that Samadhan scheme of MSME, and number two is that the delayed payment towards your purchases plays a very important and critical role. So how do we use the technology for managing your cash flow? And what are the methods that you can adopt in your organization for cost cutting? Because we know about this very famous saying said, "Money saved is money earned," right? So, what are the ways using the technology? Or what ways you can apply for cost cutting methodologies? And third, of course, is the choosing the right technology for you. So I represent Tally Solutions, and Tally Solutions has been the technology partner for over 39 years for especially for the MSMEs of our country. So we have been providing technological support for business operation in the area of finance, inventory, and taxation, or the compliance area. So we will quickly see, using the Tally technology, how can you have better control over your receivable and payable management. So there are features which are very simple in the product, where you can configure them, and the system is going to give you a lot of information as a management information system or as an MSI. The first thing, like, you can set up a default credit period. Now, the default credit period plays a very important role in these two areas, which I will quickly cover in my next slide. Number two is that you can basically check for credit days during the entry. If there are any bill which are outstanding, and if you are billing to that particular customer, and if the bills which are overdue, while you are billing, the system gives you an alert saying that, hey, look, these are the 2-3 bill which are overdue, and you are now billing. Are you okay with billing and making another sales invoice? Okay, so these kind of alerts that you get through the simple configuration that you can apply on this thing. You can also specify credit limit, so that you don't oversupply to your customer. And then again, the biggest challenge that the MSMEs have today is the collection. The collection of the outstanding is the biggest challenge that we have today. So you can specify a credit limit. The system is going to basically keep track of the outstanding with your billing, and the moment the outstanding is touching the credit limit, the system is not going to allow you to raise an invoice until and unless, through various authorization, you can go and modify or enhance the credit limit. Not only that, using this receivable payable management of the technology, you can manage your EMIs of your loans and other things, so that this is going to form a very, very important and critical role in case of your cash flow management. This can be set for your customers, masters, and also to your creditors. Why creditors is basically a self-discipline that you could have in your organization. The most important thing is protecting our bottom line. See, there are two kinds of cost the organization incurs. One is the visible cost, which we all are aware of. The important aspect is, many of us ignore a very important aspect of the invisible cost. So, what is this invisible cost? The invisible cost is the amount of interest that we are losing on non-receipt of the outstanding beyond the credit period that has been agreed upon. Now, this is where the MSME plays a very important and critical role, where they have there is a provision made in the MSME Act where it very clearly brings this Samadhan scheme of delayed payment credit monitoring system. What does the Samadhan say? The Samadhan, the law specifies that if an MSME is supplying material to their customer, a large business organization, and if there is an agreement, then the payment has to be made by the recipient within 45 days from the date of receipt of goods or services in case of an agreement. In case if there is no agreement, then the credit period is only 15 days. So beyond that, if any amount is pending, the law stipulates that, it says that the entity has to bear an interest amount, the rate of 3 times the current RBI rate. The present RBI rate is 6.5%, which means for every delayed payment for an MSME who holds an Udyam certification, where they have this facility which they can go and avail on the MSME portal, the entity is going to pay 19.5% interest. And the worst thing, that whatever interest has been paid as a penal interest or as a penalty for non-payment of the overdues, that amount of interest will not be considered as business expenses, and it will not be considered for the income tax purpose. So these are the risks that are there. So as a buyer or as a seller, using the receivable and payable management of the product will give you a better control over your receivable or payable aspects of it. The next is, there has been an emphasis, there is a change that has happened in the indirect tax and the GST, where we are aware that the law stipulates that any person who is taking input credit on purchases, and that amount of purchase value, if the person is not clearing off the outstanding amount within 180 days or within 6 months, whatever is the whatever is the credit that the entity is claimed as an input credit, needs to be reversed in the month where it is going to be effective. Now, the new amendment says that the entity not only needs to reverse the amount of unpaid value of the input credit, but they also need to pay interest on the delayed payment. So the receivable management plays a very important and critical role, where you can basically, if you see from the software, it gives you a list of outstanding, the overdue bill. It also gives you the information of number of days the bill is being pending, right? And then, like I said, the loss of interest. This is one place where we really don't know how much of the loss of interest is going to hit the bottom line. We are all aware that any credit that we extend to our customer is an interest-free loan that we are providing. Probably we must be taking loan, or we must be having a OD or OCC account for which we pay interest. And any amount which is overdue, which is not received, the amount of interest that we are losing is definitely going to hit our bottom line, which is where majority of us ignore this hidden cost. So our technology says, don't worry, we will give you a what if scenario where you can quickly enable a simple module called interest calculation module, and it is not going to impact your books of account. It is basically going to quickly calculate. It's a one-time configuration you do, and then by click of a button, you are going to get a report where it is going to tell you what is the amount that is outstanding beyond your credit period. So if you have given credit of 30 days, from 31st day, the system is going to compute the interest based on whatever is the interest interest rate that you're going to specify, it is going to tell you on the amount which is outstanding, what is the amount of interest that we are losing. Not only, if you see on the screen there is one where I have highlighted a party which is Subhash Dealer. Even though there is no amount outstanding, the interest amount specified there is 1,635. What does it mean? It says that yes, the party is cleared the invoice, but then he is not cleared it within the due date. He is cleared beyond the due date. So for the amount of number of days that has been pending beyond the credit period and the from to the date where the payment is made, on those number of days it still calculates the interest, and then it tells you that this is the amount of your bottom line that is hitting you, which is invisible. Sorry. Then managing cash flow. So with the help of this the receivable and payable management, you can have a cash flow management in a very simple way. So with the proper bill wise detail management, the cash projection is going to be accurate enough. And then you can also have a provisional entry. So see, a complete cash flow monitoring system will give you clarity when you are able to capture the upcoming the regular or the monthly or the recurring payments needs to be captured. Since these amounts have not been incurred, so the software allows you to capture them as a projection transaction, and then you can capture those regular transactions or the monthly payments which are due, which you can bring it into your cash flow projections, and by click of a button you will be able to have a proper cash flow projections, including your provisional entries of your future incomes and expenses. Now, this is how you can actually capture the future entries where, you will see, notice that the salaries and rent of the future months have been captured as a projection entry for us to get a proper information or better control over cash flow management. Then comes so if you are a manufacturer or if you are a trader, then optimizing inventory plays a very important role, because we are aware that the more number of days that we are holding the inventory, that much of our working capital is getting blocked. So how does this technology help you to optimize your inventory? So through the technology, you can, basically analyze, and you can have this information of fast moving, slow moving, or non-moving items, which gives you a better management decision for managing your operations better. And you can also, basically the technology allows you to find out the profit margin on a product. So if you're dealing, let's say, in about 15 or 20 products, if you want to know which product is giving you better margin, by click of a button, the system is going to tell you which product gives you better GP margin. Not only product, every invoice that you are raising on your customer, if you want to know what is the amount of GP that you have made on that particular invoice for various items that you have supplied, by click of a button, you are able to get that information. Then you also have a module called purchase order, sale order module, where through that, basically you will know exactly what is the committed supply. Whatever is the commitment that you have done to your customer towards your supply, you have a system which is going to tell you on what date to which customer what item needs to be supplied. At the same time, with the help of your purchase order management system, you would also know what item you have ordered, whether the item is available in the stock, or are you going to get that item within the committed time that you have provided to your customer. And then you can also set a reorder level or minimum order level in the software, which basically the system is going to tell you exactly what is the shortfall and what amount of material that you need to order. The system is going to give you the information. This way you will actually have a just-in-time stock for your management of your inventory. Now, this is where you are able to see the gross profit margin, where the report is going to tell you on each product what is the amount of gross profit and the percentage of gross profit you have made on the item. The next slide is basically going to tell you that each invoice that you have raised, what is your total transaction value, what is the gross value, what is the cost involved for various item under the invoice, and what is the GP that you have earned in that particular invoice. So all this information you're going to get by click of a button. Now, this is where you can set up a reorder status. By doing a reorder status, the system is going to, basically compute what is your closing stock. It is going to find out what is your purchase order pending. It is going to find out what is your sale order due that you are yet to supply. Considering this, what is your net stock? What is your reorder level? And based on the reorder level, the system is going to tell you what is the shortfall. And you can, basically it says, what is the ideal quantity that you need to order. So this is how the system is going to help you to manage your optimum stock level. Then you have another very, very important and critical report, we can say that it's a real-time health checkup. So what do we see? So we have a report called Ratio Analysis, and this is on an ongoing basis, you can actually see various information which helps you to quickly take a decision for any corrections that needs to be taken by you by looking into this various information. Very simple, it is going to tell you what is your working capital turnover, what is your inventory turnover. You will be able to quickly see what is your GP margin, NP margin, and various other ratios that you will get, which especially when you are going for funding, your current ratio, quick ratio, and debt equity ratio plays a very, very critical and crucial role. You would rather than get having surprises when you meet your funding manager, you can actually see the position of your organization through this, and then see what corrective steps can be done to make things better. Last but not least, Tally also has compliance for the businesses on GST, especially the GST compliance today, we are aware, is becoming stricter by the day. And then, the GST, compliance, revolves around your business operation. And there are fundings that are provided based on your GST return that you're filing, or the turnover that you declare on the GST. On the GST turnover that you have declared, you get credit facility, you get loan facilities. So basically, the system has these three important things. But what quickly I would want to say is, what is the GST feature that Tally offers? Tally offers a GST feature where if you are supplying goods, then you can directly generate e-way bill from within the software. If you are covered under e-invoicing today, every business whose turnover is 10 crores and above are mandated to generate e-invoice for all B2B supply. So Tally has a facility where within the software, you can generate e-invoice from within the software. And then you can file your return. Basically small dealers, where if you have opted for quarterly return, quarterly return, QRMP it is called, quarterly return and monthly payment. So you have an option of filing your return, providing your B2B invoices through IFF, that is invoice furnishing facility, where on a monthly basis you can upload your invoice, so that your customer can get the benefit of the credit in the same month where the person has purchased. Otherwise, if you're a quarterly return filing person, the poor customer who's purchased from you has to wait for almost 3.5 months for him to get the input tax credit. So there is this IFF facility which Tally as a technology allows you to incrementally upload your invoice, which means literally you can upload your invoice on a daily basis on the portal from within the software. And then it also supports multi-GST. Okay, very shortly we are going to come out with a new release where with one single database in Tally, if you have multiple registrations in different state, as of now, you have to create multiple companies for GST purpose. Going forward, hopefully in the month of April, we will be coming out with the latest release where you have the facility of having one single database, and you can have multiple GST registrations captured in one single database, and you can file your GST return for your various registrations for various states. The connected benefit also gives you real-time validation of the HSN SAC, real-time validation of the GSTIN of the party. You can also see whether the party is active or whether his registration has become inactive. You can see all this information, and the best part is HSN wise, rate wise reporting in your GSTR1 is provided by the system by click of a button. Now, this is where you have your GSTR1 information, where you can export the data through JSON file, and you can upload them in minutes. You can finish your file returning of your filing your return. So you also have GSTR3B within the software, which you can generate. You also have your annual return, annual return computation for you to quickly fill up your annual return. So this way, for every business, any technology, I mean, like whether you are using Tally or any technology, the technology is really going to help you to leverage on various benefits that the government is providing to the businesses in our country, and it gives you a better hold over your business activity. You will be on top of the competition, and you will have better control over cash flow, cost cutting, and technology is going to really help you. So please adopt the technology and grow your business. Thank you very much. So I think we'll take the Q&A later, right, Abhishek?
Yes, Pugal sir. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for that insightful session. I think there was a lot of
thank
learnings
you.
for all our attendees here. And I think a quick reminder, we'll have the questions for both Sapna and Pugal sir towards the end of the session. Before we go ahead to Sapna, I would like a quick poll just to see how many of the audience has overseas business, because this is going to be we'll have 30 seconds to close the poll. While this is being filled, I would like to have Sapna ready to go after this. And like I said, the last 10 minutes we should have for a Q&A session. Should we feel we have more questions than the time allows, we'll definitely extend it for a little bit. Else, we'll share email IDs of both Tally and Payoneer, so the conversation can be taken ahead. I hope everyone has voted. I'll just wait for 20 more seconds, and then we can have the results, and Sapna can start her session. Also, audience, feel free to keep your questions ready, and you can ask it in the Q&A section, and we'll start answering them once Sapna's session is over. Great. I think we have the results from almost 20 people, and those are the results. We have 60% who don't have a cross-border business and 40% who do. Great. Thank you for answering the poll, everyone. Thank you for answering the poll, everyone. And Sapna, over to you for your session.
Thanks, Abhishek. So this was extremely exciting. I would want to basically talk about two perspectives. I'm sorry, am I audible? My voice is not echoing, Abhishek.
Sapna, you're audible.
Excellent. I would want to talk about the budget from two perspectives. One would be the MSME perspective, and the other one would be exports. We work very, very closely with the exporters of goods and services as well as MSMEs who are either e-commerce sellers or they're exporting goods and services. They're also selling domestically, but also selling goods and services across the world. So what we're hearing really from various industry bodies and the chatter on the ground really is that while the government has taken some very good initiatives in terms of good exports, right? So for example, the MEIS was replaced by road which is something that is going to definitely benefit the larger exporters. But for smaller exporters as well as e-commerce, there were a lot of good suggestions which were not really covered in the current budget. So what the e-commerce community or the small exporter community is really pushing for is to have more production linked incentives, strengthening the supply chain, specifically the logistics and the international supply chain, and maybe have a separate a separate policy altogether for the e-commerce sellers, and not maybe try to force fit them with the slightly larger export policies. On the services side, I think last year we saw two major global trends. A was with the war in Ukraine and also COVID. Despite the pandemic, we saw that Indian service exports stood at 254 billion. And the reason was that this segment is one segment which is, in a way, slightly insulated from geopolitical or COVID-like disruptions, because again, employees can work from anywhere, they can work remotely, right? Unlike manufacturing, which did take a hit, and supply chain that did take a hit, service continued to grow. While this budget does not talk a lot about the service segment, but if you look at last year and if you look at this year, telecommunication, computer information services, business services, and transport were the top contributors to GDP, as well as exports, which were somewhat slightly left behind in terms of the. I'll move to what Payoneer is, and how we are currently empowering MSMEs specifically, and exporters and exporters of goods and services in contributing to the GDP and ensuring that their goods and services are reaching all over the world, and second, how Payoneer is enabling them collect funds globally very, very easily. So a little bit about Payoneer and cross-border payments. Payoneer is a NASDAQ-listed entity. We specialize in cross-border payments, and we basically take care of 360 degrees of collection as well as a payout use case, which means that as a business, you can either have receivables or you can have payables. And while having a very, very good tool to manage these payments and collections is very, very important. At the same time, having a trusted payment partner who can make your collection as well as payout journey super seamless is also extremely important for businesses which are export heavy, especially. This is a small snapshot about how we are globally. We support 5 million customers globally. We are present across 2,000 marketplaces. So in India, a large number of freelancers who provide services on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr use us to collect payments from UK, USs, etc. of the world. Exporter of goods, services, specifically e-commerce sellers who sell on, let's say, a Walmart or a eBay or a Amazon Global, use us to again collect payments from their customers, their B2B customers around the globe. We cover some 200 countries in terms of currencies, and we support 70+ languages. We are NASDAQ listed. We are a publicly listed company, and we have been doing this for about 17 years. In India, we have multiple banking partners, and we operate under the OPGST license, and we are regulated by RBI. So this is a little bit about our poster. Who do we support globally, right? So we spoke about various lines of businesses and various segments. Anybody ranging from a service provider to a freelancer to an exporter of goods and services or e-commerce is somebody who would use our services anytime there is a cross-border or an international payment use case. Of course, the clients that you see on the screen here, these are very, very large clients, right? So, for example, we work with Amazon, we work with Google in various payments, Airbnb. Any Airbnb host that you see in India gets paid through a Payoneer product. Right? So while these are again very, very big enterprise brands, the heart of what we do specifically in India is basically work with MSMEs and SMEs in their export endeavors in the country, whether they are goods or services. Now, what are the problems that we see on the ground, right? When we speak to exporters of goods and services, what are the problems that they see with the current bank infrastructure that they have, or in terms of collecting payments from outside of India? So the first thing that we see is that, and intuitively, if you are somebody who's just started, if you're a manufacturer, or if you've just set up an IT company, or if you've just set up a outsourced operation, the first thing that you would do once you get a global order or once you get a customer outside of India is that you would go to a bank, right? And you will ask the bank that, hey, I am to get payments from my customer in the US. Can you give me a bank account, and can you give me a current account, and can you give me a zip code? right? And the unfortunate truth is that while our banking and our fintech is one of the best globally, but the level of service that a MSME gets in this country today is frankly a function of how big you are or how small you are in terms of your banking relationship. So what we hear from a lot of customers is that I have a current account, but it's all working capital, right? So I don't have a large float. The rates that I get from my bank are not great at all, right? Or we've heard horror stories that that, hey, one of my wire transfers, with a leading bank got stuck, and there was nobody at a retail branch level who could troubleshoot me and help me get that payment. And then my payment was stuck for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Or somebody would come and tell us that, the markup rate that my bank is charging me is a lot. Like the FX rate that I'm getting is really, really bad, right? Is there an alternative way? And it is eating into all of my margins, because in goods, margins are sacrosanct, right? And working capital is important if you're a SME. So you can't afford to have funds stuck. You can't afford to have a very high FX, and you would want to focus on what you do best, right? Which is manufacturing, providing services, and you would want to leave payments to a payment expert and have that payment expert a part of your growth journey, right? Instead of spending a lot of time and energy in sorting your payment. These are primarily the problems that we've seen on the ground. Again, a main one of the reasons for this is that, while our banks are extremely strong in terms of domestic payments, right? So we have 24 payments like RTGS, NEFTs, UPIs, etc. But when it comes to international payments, you do need a trusted international payment provider who has an expertise in major currencies. And as Indians, what we see, we are only sensitive about two things. That's at least been our learning. One is pricing. We are extremely sensitive to pricing. And the second is customer service. There are also places that we've seen that where the level of service that these exporters are getting from their service providers is not bad, right? But again, then the costs that they pay to get first world banking solutions are very, very high, to an extent that they can also be prohibitive to business. And then obviously comes the compliance part, right? Anytime you're receiving any payments from outside of India, they get heavily scrutinized. There is an additional layer of compliance and documentation which your bank is supposed to provide to you, a document which is called a foreign inward remittance certificate. This is again a document that we've seen a lot of SMEs and MSMEs struggle with. They sometimes have to go to their branches, fill out a bunch of documents, and then get this document physically for their CAs to be able to reconcile their payments and then accordingly file their taxes, right? So the entire process can become slightly complicated, which is where you need an expert who can take care of these problems and solve these problems for you. Now, where does Payoneer come in? Payoneer, like I said, is payments 360-degree. Any use case that a business, as an exporter of goods and services, can possibly have is something that a Payoneer can provide. It could be on the collection side, which means that, hey, I want a large transfer to come from my customer in the US, or it could be in terms of pay modes, that I have customers outside of India who want to pay me through credit cards. My bank can't really support it, right? Like, what do I do next? Or it could be hey, I'm also, while I'm exporting products outside of India, I also have to make vendor payments, let's say to Singapore, let's say to maybe US, let's say to any other country, right? I have to pay employees, I have to pay consultants, I have to pay multiple stakeholders globally. How do I do that? Do I go to my bank? Will my bank be able to give me all of these functionalities, or do I go to a service provider for some of these things and then maybe go back to my bank for the rest of it, right? So Payoneer basically helps you in terms of all payment use cases end to end. Very briefly, this is what our services are in a nutshell. You get paid value-added services as a payment expert as well as payout. Now, on the collection side, we offer something called a global receiving account, which means that to a business in India, sitting in India, this is your Indian entity, we can give you local bank accounts in 10 plus currencies, which means that a business or an IT service provider sitting in Hyderabad can have a US account, they can have a UK account, they can have an account in Australia. So they don't really have to ask their customer in the US to make a wire transfer to some bank in India, which again requires a cost, and second, it might not be a preferred mode for somebody in the US, right? This is something that we actively solve for our customers. This is something that our customers love. This can turn out to be very, very competitive as compared to what banks charge you on conversion. And second, it also adds legitimacy to your business, because now you have a situation where you have a customer sitting in the US saying that, hey, this seems like a global company. They seem to have bank accounts in the US. And then there is also that intrinsic factor of trust, right? When you know that somebody has or seemingly has a global presence, you just tend to trust them more, specifically in international transactions. The other requirement that we've also seen customers come up with, and again, countries outside of India, they're extremely credit heavy. So customers would say that, hey, we would want to give you an export order, but we would want to pay through a credit card instead. Do you not use some solution through which you can accept payment from us using a credit card, right? So that's the other solution for which customers come to us. We provide an international payment gateway, plus we give a service called BLS, in which you can simply attach your invoice for the service that you've given to the customer, and you can send them a payment link on which they can simply click, and they can make a payment to you. And then Payoneer is responsible for settling that payment into your Indian bank account. Coming to value-added services, because we believe that our relationship with our customers is not just transactional. We also help in terms of managing currencies, in terms of providing this document that I spoke about earlier, which is the FIRC. And we ensure that our dashboard is extremely simple, it is DIY, it is intuitive, and anything that you need is available to you 24/7 on your dashboard at a click of a button, and you don't have to physically go and visit anybody or chase after some customer support team in order to get this very, very basic document. Payoneer has digitized this entire journey. Now, the other very, very important value-added service that we give is really create a partner ecosystem, right? So on the good side, we have extremely strong partnerships in the industry in terms of logistic partners, in terms of incorporation services, and we've really tried to create the entire export infrastructure, whether it is for goods, whether it is for services, under the Payoneer umbrella. So let's say today you have a small business, but tomorrow you want to scale this business, right, globally, and you would need some consultants in terms of taxation, you would need consultants in terms of, maybe incorporation services and many more things, right? So Payoneer brings all of these trusted partners under one umbrella, so that anything which is payment, compliance, and taxation related, Payoneer is somebody who can maybe help you nudge or help you go in the right direction with respect to all of these. The last use case that we support is payout. So if you're a business which wants to promote itself, spends heavy on, let's say, Google ads, Facebook ads, Amazon ads, in order to promote their business outside of India, Payoneer, and again, this is something that when people start out or MSMEs start out, they typically they go to an Indian bank and they use a card. And again, cards, banks can end up charging the heavens, right, in terms of FX markups. Payoneer provides an international card with no FX markup, which is available in 3+ currency. And again, the ability to make global payouts in 200+ currencies in order to pay your vendors and so on. Again, in a very small snapshot, these are the problems which I spoke about earlier. This is what customers typically face when they receive wire transfers, and why they choose to move to the Payoneer platform, right? So one of the examples that I spoke about was that intermediary banks always cause complications, right? So this example that I was talking about was one of our customers who said that, hey, my customer in the US has shared the screen grab and they seem to have made the payment to me. But my Indian bank account, when I'm going and calling my relationship manager at my retail branch, they seem to say that they haven't received the payment, right? And eventually, when this problem was solved and it was diagnosed, it turned out that there was an intermediary bank involved between the payers bank in the US and the receivers bank in India, right? So, because international transactions come with the complexity of a foreign exchange, and second, multiple banks being involved, it's not like an NEFT, right, where there are only two banks and the money can either be with the bank, with the receiving bank, or with the payee bank, right? There could be multiple parties involved. In our case, it is Payoneer end-to-end. We give you local bank accounts so that we kind of eliminate any kind of intermediary. And then the only partner that you need to follow up with is Payoneer, and we kind of take care of your entire collection process. And again, like I said, that in India, customer service and pricing is something that our SMEs, our MSMEs, and rightly so, are both sensitive about. We do work with global enterprises, but we are heavily focused on SMEs, on MSMEs, and our platform is also friendly for freelancers, right? So we ensure that good services are delivered to you in the most competitive prices. A small good to know trivia information. Just as in India, NEFT or RTGS or UPI now is the acceptable source of payment, right? Similarly, in every country, the way that country handles their payments is very different. So, if you're somebody who's doing business in the US, your customer would come back to you and say that, hey, don't you accept the ACH? Similarly, this SEPA in Europe, there are EFTs, which are electronic fund transfers in Canada and Australia, right? So the gist is that every country is different. Their acceptable payment modes are different. It is about ease of it is about ease, it is about convenience, and it is about ensuring that money reaches you in a timely manner to ensure that your working capital cycle does not get disrupted. That's it. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you. And Abhishek, over to you. I would love to have.
Thanks so much, Sapna, for that. I'm sure the audience had some really good insights from that session as well. Now we are open to take questions for either Mr. Pugal or Ms. Sapna. Audience, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, and we'll have our panelists answer the questions. I think we did overshoot by a little bit, but we have enough time to take questions. So please feel free. So I think we had two questions come in. One was, will the webinar recording be shared? And I think yes. So that was one, and the other one was again not. The other one was more on, I think, something else. But I've also shared our email IDs for both Tally and Payoneer. Should anyone want to reach out and ask any questions which perhaps were not addressed in the sessions, both the sessions, we'll get back to you on that. But in the meantime, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah, we have our first question come up. Sapna, can you see the question? It's okay. So the question is, so for everyone's attention, the question is, how do we send payments to clients' bank account in the US? Sapna, you're on mute. Yeah.
So it would depend really on two things. One is that do you currently operate with an Indian entity? Do you have an entity outside of India? I'm assuming this question is meant specifically for the Payoneer offering that we have. Right now, if you have an Indian entity, you can only use the Indian entity to receive payments, and then we settle those payments to you into your Indian bank account. So with only an Indian entity, you today can't make any outward transfers from India to outside of India to send money to somebody outside of India. So that's one. Now, assuming that you also have a global entity, right? In which case, Payoneer allows you to hold currency indefinitely, which means that if your customer has made a payment to you, let's say they've made $1,000 payment to you, you can hold that fund with Payoneer. And then you can use that same amount in case you want to make any refund back to the customer. The third alternative is that if your customer uses Payoneer, right, so your customer can send a payment link, and this is without having the complications of Indian entity, US entity. If your customer has a Payoneer account, then your customer can send a payment request to you, and this request will come into your, and you can use an Indian credit card as long as it is enabled to do a USD transaction. Then even without having an entity outside, simply use an Indian credit card, which is enabled for international transactions, and transfer funds to the bank customer.
Thanks for that, Sapna. I think we have one more question for you. This is more along the lines of, can't we use Payoneer to collect payment from customers in India?
So Payoneer cross-border solutions do not do any domestic business. We don't support any of the local payment use cases that you have. So it's only when there's international transaction.
I hope that answered your question, Mr. Kisle. Okay, I think Pugal sir and Sapna, I think both of you were very clear in your sessions. We don't have a lot of questions coming in, but I think we'll just wait for a minute or two more before we close the session in that case. Don't see any more questions coming in which case, I think thank you so much. Okay, we have a question. I'm really sorry. We have a question that just came in. I think it's for you, Sapna. This is Payoneer is not very popular in the US as all of my clients' perspective. If they want to pay for us, then there is no sending payment link option in my account. How do I do that in that such cases that they don't need to make an account on our platform and I get money from them to my Payoneer account?
Sure. So I think the context in which we need to understand this is think of in the domestic context. Think of the difference between a Razor Pay and maybe a Paytm, right? If you go and I go and ask my mother now, she would probably what a Paytm is. I have really heard of the Razor. So that is that Paytm is basically also a wallet. It's a peer-to-peer wallet as well, right? But Razor Pay is like funds for the customers or now, this definitely doesn't mean that Razor Pay is not better or Paytm is better or Razor Pay is less popular. It's just that the product, one product is a B2B product or B2B2C product and the other is the customer. That's the difference. Or that's the, similarly, since you said mentioned PayPal, similarly, if you ask somebody, PayPal would definitely have a higher recall value because it's also a wallet that people use to make payments to each other. So that could be one reason why PayPal would be something that people have heard of more as compared to Payoneer. That's one. Second is that if your customers want to pay you, they can definitely send a link. If you have a Payoneer account, there is a which is called BLS. You can definitely put in the email ID of your customer, send a payment link to them through which they can make the payment to you, and vice versa. Your customer, if they use Payoneer, payment link and you can use your Indian credit again with the star that it needs to be enabled for.
Great. Thanks, Sapna. I think we have a couple more questions for you. Mr. Kisle had a question. If I have a new startup and no GST in or a government registration certificate for the business, can we use Payoneer to collect payments from customers abroad?
Uh, I think we need to first understand if there is no GST uh, um, are you if it is a business then it needs to have these documents unless you're exempt for GST in some way or let's say you're an individual or a freelancer. So to be able to answer this question I would need more context, but yes, if it is an individual and if there is somebody who's working as a freelancer, they can also go and set up the Payoneer account assuming that you have all the other KYC information which is required by the platform.
Thanks, Sapna. I think we can take one last question. We have just overshot by a little bit. Mr. Chandar had a question. What is the business size for which Payoneer will be interested?
There is absolutely no business size. We cater to this is something. This is one of the reasons why freelancers use us, right? There is no barrier to entry. Be a freelancer on Upwork getting as low as $50 or $100 a month, or you could be somebody who's receiving millions of dollars in a month. There are absolutely no barriers to entry. We Payoneer as a platform supports all kinds of business.
Great. I think we can take one last question before we close the session. This is from Mr. Ejaj Mundra. What is the ease of sending a payment link? Is that something available on Payoneer? I am a freelancer and not a business entity.
Absolutely. So as a freelancer, you can also go and register on the Payoneer, and you can set to what we spoke about earlier, which is a and you can use this to bill your client outside.
Great. Thanks so much, Sapna. For any questions that you may have for either Mr. Pugal or Ms. Sapna, please feel free to email the IDs I've shared. We'll have them checked and answered. And thank you so much for both the panelists and all the attendees for attending the session. We were glad to have you and host you, and we look forward to more such insightful sessions. Thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for